Little girl hides under biker's table from abusive stepdad. His reaction is unbelievable. The rain that night didn't just fall. It hammered against the pavement, a relentless drumbeat matching the frantic pounding of 6-year-old Lily's heart. Her small sneakers slipped on the wet asphalt as she ran, her breath coming in ragged, terrified gasps. Behind her, the shadow of Craig Bowman loomed large, not just in physical size, but in the terror he cast over her young life. He was her stepfather, a man whose anger was as volatile as lightning and whose hands were far too quick to strike. Lily had no destination in mind, only the desperate need to get away. She turned a corner into the industrial district, a place usually avoided by families, where the streetlights flickered and the buildings wore coats of rust and grime. There, glowing with a warm amber haze against the gray storm, stood a sign shaped like a wheel, the Rusty Spoke. It was a biker bar, a place known for loud engines, leather vests, and men who looked like they could crush a car with their bare hands. To most, it was a place of danger. To little Lily, shivering and alone, it was the only door left open. She spotted a side entrance propped slightly ajar by a discarded crate. Without thinking, driven by pure instinct, she squeezed through the gap. The air inside was thick with the scent of stale beer, motor oil, and tobacco smoke. The noise was deafening, a roar of laughter, clinking glasses, and heavy metal music vibrating through the floorboards. Lily froze, a tiny mouse in a den of lions. Her eyes darted around the room until they landed on a corner booth occupied by a mountain of a man. His name was Duke Callahan. He was enormous, with arms thick as tree trunks covered with intricate tattoos of skulls, eagles, and flames. His beard was a steel-gray thicket, and his presence commanded the entire room. Yet as Lily scrambled under his heavy oak table, curling into a tight ball against his boots, Duke didn't kick her out. He didn't shout. He simply stopped mid-sentence, his deep voice cutting off abruptly. He looked down, his steely blue eyes meeting the wide, tear-filled gaze of the trembling child. In that silent exchange, something profound happened. The hardened biker saw not an intruder, but a victim. Without saying a word to his friends, Duke shifted his massive legs, creating a shielded cavern beneath the table. He placed a large, calloused hand gently on the floor near her, a silent promise. You are safe here. Minutes later, the front door slammed open, silencing the room. The music seemed to dip as Craig Bowman stormed in, soaking wet and radiating fury. His eyes scanned the room wildly until they locked on the corner booth. He marched forward, pushing past patrons who instinctively stepped aside. "I know she's in here," Craig shouted, his voice cracking with manic energy. "Come out, you little brat!" He reached the table and bent down, his face twisting into a sneer as he spotted Lily. But before he could reach under the wood, a shadow fell over him. Duke had stood up. When Duke stood, he blocked out the light. He towered over Craig, a wall of leather and muscle. The bar went deathly quiet. Every eye was on them. "She ain't going nowhere with you," Duke said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that shook the very foundations of the room. It was the calm before a storm, the stillness of a predator protecting its own. Craig tried to puff out his chest, attempting to match Duke's intensity. "This is my business. That's my stepdaughter. Move aside, old man, or you'll regret it." Duke didn't flinch. He took one slow step forward, forcing Craig to take a step back. "You look at me and you see a biker," Duke rumbled, his eyes narrowing. "But I look at you and I see a coward who hits children. You take one more step toward this table and you won't be walking out of here on your own 2 feet. Do we understand each other?" The atmosphere in the Rusty Spoke shifted. The other bikers, men who had spent decades riding together, began to stand up. Chairs scraped against the floor. Hands rested casually near belts. They weren't threatening violence explicitly. They were forming a united front. Craig looked around, realizing for the first time that he was vastly outnumbered and outmatched. The intimidation he relied on had met its superior. Swallowing hard, his bravado crumbling under Duke's unyielding stare,
Craig spat on the floor, muttered a curse, and turned tail, fleeing back into the rain. As the door closed, the tension in the room broke, replaced by a collective exhale. Duke sat back down, returning his attention to the space beneath the table. "He's gone, little one," he said softly, his voice surprisingly gentle. "You're safe now." But Duke knew this was only the beginning. Safety wasn't just about stopping a bully, it was about building a future. While his friends kept a watchful eye on the entrance, Duke pulled out his phone. He didn't call the police immediately, he called someone he trusted to handle things with care. He dialed Sandra Merchant, a social worker he had met years ago during a community outreach event. "Sandra," Duke said, his voice low, "I got a situation. A 6-year-old girl. She needs help, and she needs it now." Within the hour, Sandra arrived. The contrast was striking. The soft-spoken woman in a cardigan kneeling beside the giant tattooed man to speak with Lily. Duke stayed close, a silent guardian, ensuring that when Lily finally emerged from under the table, she did so into capable, caring hands. As they led her away to temporary safety, Lily looked back. Duke gave her a small, rare nod. It was enough. 3 weeks passed. The seasons began to turn, and the memory of that rainy night started to fade into a distant nightmare for Lily. One sunny afternoon, the doors of the rusty spoke opened again. This time, however, there was no fear in the air. Lily walked in, holding her mother's hand. Her mother, free from Craig's grip thanks to the legal intervention sparked by Duke's testimony, looked healthier, lighter. And Lily? She was smiling. She wore a bright yellow dress and carried a handmade card. The bar patrons paused, recognizing the little girl from under the table. A murmur of warmth rippled through the crowd. Duke, sitting in his usual spot, looked up, surprised. Lily broke away from her mother and ran to Duke. Duke tensed for a split second, then opened his arms. Lily hugged his leg, burying her face in the leather of his vest. "Thank you, Mr. Duke," she whispered, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "You saved me." Duke cleared his throat, visibly moved, his tough exterior cracking to reveal the golden heart beneath. He knelt down, bringing himself to her eye level. "You saved yourself, kiddo. You were brave. I just made sure nobody bothered you while you were being brave." Her mother approached, tears in her eyes, shaking Duke's hand. "We're starting over. We have a new apartment. Lily is in school. We have a life again. Because of you." As they left, waving goodbye, the rusty spoke returned to its usual hum of conversation and music. But the mood had changed. The story of the giant biker and the little girl spread quickly, becoming legend among the regulars. It served as a reminder that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather vests, ride motorcycles, and possess a quiet strength that protects the innocent when the world turns dark. In a world often defined by judgment and appearances, Duke Callahan taught everyone that true character isn't about how you look, but what you do when someone small and scared needs a place to hide. And under that table, in the roughest bar in town, a little girl found the safest place on earth. Thanks for watching.